Hello, very good morning, students. Today we are with the next stanzas of this poem that we have started in our last lecture. Elegy written in a country churchyard, written by Thomas Gray. We have discussed so far about the poem, about the poet, about his works, and the beginning two stanzas of this poem in our last lecture. We have come to know what about this poem is. That is, this is an elegy written by Thomas Gray, and it has been written or dedicated to the poor people of the countryside or the rural side. He describes about their life, about their works, about their deaths, as well as about their poverty, about their development, and he concludes that these poor people who are living in the village, a small village, were buried in the country churchyard, have no history at all, have nothing behind after them, and then they have been buried here. Nobody takes care of them, nobody did take care of them in their lives. They were very simple, they were very honest and humble, sober people. So, this is the theme or the gist of this poem, Elegy. Elegy, in fact, as I told you, a poem that mourns the death of someone who is very much close to you. And here, the poet is writing this elegy for in the memory of the villagers, poor farmers of the countryside. In the beginning of the poem, we saw that how the poet begins the poem. He begins the poem when he is standing in a country churchyard and the time is of the evening, that is the time is of the twilight, dusk time, when the farmers are returning to their homes, when the cattle are also returning to their enclosures after having been fed on the meadow. So the poet describes about the or gives a depiction of the evening scene of the village. Then he says that there is a complete silence now and there is no disturbance at all where he is standing. What he sees there is only the darkness and the poet himself who is alone there. So this picture in fact gives the impression of solitudeness, gives the impression of loneliness that the poet finds there. Then in the next stanza the poet describes about some of the disturbances which were intervening in the peace and quietness of the churchyard's environment. And that he describes. And what are they? He describes that about the beetles, worms, about the beetle wheels which are roaming here and there, and then he also tells that the twinkling bells of the cattle or the he sheep that have been enclosed in the enclosures. So the twinkling bell that is hung in the neck of the sheep is also sometime disturbing the environment. And it twinkles because the sheep is drowsy. And when he suddenly awakes and he makes the movement, the bell rings or the twinkles. So these two things he have described were the intervening the quietness of the atmosphere. Now, now we go with another two stanzas of this poem, stanza number 3 and 4. And here, what he says, what the poet says, let's see. Save that from yonder ivy mantled tower, the moping owl does to the moon complain of such as wandering near her secret bower, molest her ancient solitary reign. So let's see first the stanza number 3, and these are the 4 lines. In these 4 lines, the poet is again describing about the one more thing that is also disturbing the environment. And that is what? He describes in this way. Save means accept. So accept that silence. Accept that silence. These are the noises which are there. Otherwise, there is complete silence. So, save that from yonder ivy mantled tower. Yonder means nearby. Ivy mantled tower. There is a tower, and tower is on the church, and it is ivy mantled. Ivy mantled means here that it is raised or it is covered with the ivy creepers. Ivy creepers, ivy plants. So the tower is also covered or raised up with the plants and or we can say the ivy creepers. The moping owl does to the moon complain. And upon this tower of the church, the owl is sitting. Moping owl is sitting. So moping means who is complaining. So moping owl is sitting there and he is looking at the moon and complaining to the moon. He is making a complaint to the moon, and therefore he is making the sound, the noise of such as wandering near her secret bower. So what about what the owl is complaining to the moon? It is in fact complaining to the moon about her secret bower, where he is residing, where he is sitting, is being disturbed by someone that he is complaining about. The meaning is here that the owl which is sitting on the tower is complaining to the moon that some passerby is disturbing his ancient kingdom of residence, where it is living, sitting. So it is being disturbed by the passerby. Therefore, the owl is making complaint. And when he makes the complaint, there comes out the sound. And this sound is also an exception there to disturb that quietness and peacefulness of the environment. Okay, her ancient molest means disturbing, interfering, etc. Her ancient solitary reign. Her means here the owl's ancient, old, solitary, solitude, because owl always like the solitudeness, loneliness, lives in the darkness. Reign means the kingdom. So her kingdom is being disturbed by the passerby. So he is complaining about the passerby to the moon. Okay. Now we have another four lines. Beneath those rugged elms that your trees shade, where heaves the turf in many a mouldering heap, each in his narrow cell forever late, the rude forefathers of the hamlet sleep. So we have seen that in the first beginning three stanzas, the poet is describing the evening time. The poet is describing the environment and the atmosphere of the churchyard where he is standing. And now the poet describes about the churchyard, about the people, and about the village, etc. from the stanza 4. See how he describes. Beneath those rugged elms. So beneath these rugged elms, just a minute. Elms are the trees, and these are rugged, means rough, old elm trees. So beneath those old elm trees that your trees shade, and beneath the your trees shade, that is the shadow of these trees, or under these nearby trees, where heaves the turf, where the turf has come out. Heaves means come out, raging, just like the snake rages its head. In the same way, here the poet says that this turf means the grass. The grass has come out, raised in many a mouldering heaps. In many mouldering heaps, there are the mouldering heaps, mouldering of the sand. So mouldering heaps here are the graves. The heap, mouldering heap, the word has been used for the graves, the graves of dead people. So upon these mouldering graves of the dead people, the turf, the grass has been raised or has been grown up, has come out, each in his narrow cell forever late. Each means everyone, every villager of this village, every farmer of this village, in his narrow cell, in his narrow cell, in his narrow room. But here cell means grave, narrow grave, 3 by 6 feet. In his narrow cell, forever laid. Forever means permanently laid, means lying. So that in each narrow grave or cell, each farmer is permanently lying, sleeping, taking rest in his grave. The rude forefathers of the hamlet sleep. So who is lying in these graves? The rude forefathers. So the forefathers of these villages, rude, Rude here does not means rude as an abuse or that I mean we can say robust or sturdy, not like that, but rude here means the simple, uneducated, illiterate people, forefathers, ancestors of this village, of the hamlet means this village, hamlet means village, sleep are sleeping in these cells. So he means to say that beneath these big trees and beneath under their shades, the graves have been made there, and upon these graves the grass has come out, has grown up, and in each grave the forefathers, the simple and the ordinary, uneducated, illiterate ancestors of this village are permanently sleeping. They have been laid there permanently because now they cannot come back. So, this is how the poet is going to describe the scene, the sight that he sees in the churchyard. So, through these graves, he will describe about the life of the people who were the resident of that village, about their education, about their work, etc. So, this is what we have in these two stanzas. Ivy mental, the more figurative language here, the speaker uses metaphor to describe the tower where the owl lives as ivy mantled. So the tower is ivy mantled. I have already explained, but from figures of speech point of view, it is a metaphor. The poet has used the metaphor for the tower where the owl lives. A mantle, we know that is a kind of cloak, but here used as for dressed up. Tower is definitely, probably the church tower, but definitely it is the church tower. Although the poet is describing the rural side, the country side, but it may possible that the church is there in the rural side also. But the speaker doesn't say that there is an owl hooting. He uses some more figurative language. So he doesn't say that the owl is hooting, making sound. But he is using the other figurative language. And what he used? See, save that from yonder ivy mantle tower, the moping owl does to the moon complain. It's complaining to the moon. It's not hooting. And here the owl has also been personified. So complaining, speaking, these are the function of the human beings. But here the poet says that the owl is speaking and complaining. It means he is personifying the owl. And therefore it's complaining. And complaining about what? That her private room, her private residence, which is solitude, a loneliness, is disturbed by some wanderer nearby. And who is the outsider here? Outsider may be the poet himself, who is making the disturbance to the owl. So this is what we have the rude forefathers, means the forefathers were not sophisticated. It does not mean that that they were rude in that sense, but they were described as just simple country folks. They were not discourteous or impolite. So rude means here does not impolite and discourteous, but it means just simple and unsophisticated. So this is what we have, the meaning of these two stanzas, and in next time we will meet another few stanzas of this poem. Thank you very much. Till then.